All right, welcome. This is Dr. Sara Rodgers of Idaho Naturopathic Medicine, and I'm here today with Cari Powers of Kapow the Trainer Mobile Personal Training. Thank you for coming and visiting with me today, Cari.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Sarah. I'm excited to chat with you today.
Yeah, so I really wanted to talk to you because we had a great conversation when we met about you talking about the barriers for women to get healthy and strong. And it turns out that's your passion. So I really wanted to talk to you about that. And we talked about the fact that there's a lot of marketing to women about being beautiful, but there's a bunch of barriers for women to stay strong and healthy. So I wanted to go over that with you. And also, I'm going to flip to my little notes here. You said something amazing in your intake, which was women have an enormous ripple effect in their communities. I'm going to cry. This is so emotional for me. Yeah, this is this. I don't know why I'm tearing up here. Whether that's family, work, volunteering, or all of the above, and when they improve their strength and confidence, they boldly impact their surroundings and the people around them. I'm so sorry.
It gives me goosebumps. It gives me goosebumps too.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about why you wrote that.
Yeah, that's probably the one or two sentence reason behind why I do what I do, which is help women exercise. I don't tell people that I help women get lean or decrease their body fat percentage or things like that. Oftentimes those things happen, but what I do is help women exercise. And what I see over and over again is that it's the process that changes people. It isn't the results. And so, and I didn't come out, I didn't decide to be a personal trainer and go like, this is my why. That little tidbit came from working one-on-one with women. And working with a personal trainer can be a little bit like a therapy session. It can be like when you sit down with your hairdresser, you're together and you're in a, you're stuck in that environment for however long it takes, and you talk and you get to know people. And because I'm seeing women in their homes, it's even extra, an added level of intimacy. I get to know about their families and their jobs and things like that. And so all that to say, what I found working with clients over the years is that the process of exercising changes their lives in these ways that don't have anything to do with exercise. All of a sudden, a lady does a push-up and she's never done a push-up before, and then suddenly she's standing up for herself at work, or she's setting more clear boundaries with her kids, or she decides to start the nonprofit that she's been dreaming about. And
Right.
it's really hard to like directly tie those things together, but we can look at
Mhm.
it and go, the only thing that's changed in your life in the last 4 or 5 months is you've started working with me. And
Right.
like, it's not me. Don't mistake that. That's not like, oh, whew, I'm fairy godmother and I make people do these amazing things. It's the process of investing in themselves. That part's just, that's bare minimum. I'm setting aside some amount of time every single week to
Right.
invest in myself. But the second part of it is it's the process of challenging yourself, meeting those challenges, challenging yourself again, meeting those challenges, and that truly changes people.
Right. Right. That sounds very empowering. Yeah. So we talked about the barriers for women in exercise, and I grew up in an era where it was all about well, it still is, I think, to some degree, about Barbie doll looks, and there was the jazzercise and Jane Fonda, and things have changed a lot to where women now you can see women's muscles in television shows that they're actually working out, which was not something I grew up with. So the fact that you can be strong and healthy is a different paradigm today. But there's still, what you're saying is that there's a bunch of barriers for women to exercise. So let's talk about those.
Totally.
So you,
So the reason that I started personal training in a mobile way is that gyms never really spoke to me. I belonged to several
Mhm.
gyms over the course of my life and I found them fine. They got the job done, but I always felt self-conscious. I used to be 100 pounds overweight. And when I was going to the gym at 100 pounds overweight, I felt terribly self-conscious. I was the fat girl and people were staring at me. Whether they were or weren't, it was my perception and it made me
Right.
uncomfortable to be there. I lost a bunch of weight. I learned how to become healthy. I got certified as a personal trainer. So even as somewhat of an expert, I still wasn't really comfortable in a traditional gym environment. And that's true for most of the women that I work with. We tend to feel uncomfortable. We tend to feel looked at. We tend to feel judged. And again, the quote unquote reality really isn't the point. The point is the perspective. So you're coming into that place with that feeling.
Mhm.
And so gyms, a traditional gym just isn't the most friendly place for a woman. And that's a really big boundary to get over. If you are 100 pounds overweight, it's really hard to walk in that door. If you don't know what you're going to do once you're on the other side of the door, that's another big boundary.
Right.
There's no accountability to going to a big box gym. They don't care if you're there. It's nothing against the gyms. It's just their business model. They want to sell 10 or 20,000 memberships and they want 1 or 2,000 people to show up every day. That's how they make their money and stay in business. If all 10 or 20,000 people
Right.
showed up, it couldn't function that way.
Right.
So there's nobody calling you from the front desk going, hey, we haven't seen you in a week or two. What's going on? Are you coming back in? So it's up to you who are already uncomfortable, already ignorant, don't know what to do, to then make yourself accountable to show up and do those hard things. And that's just, it's a big mountain to climb. And so a
Right.
lot of people don't do it. Or if a lady can get herself to go to the gym and she wants to accomplish some change, she'll do what's safe. And this, I'm speaking in broad generalities, of course, but this is statistically, this is what you'll see. You go to a big box gym and you
Right.
look around, you'll see men in the weight room and you'll see women on the bikes, the Stairmasters, the ellipticals, and the
Right.
treadmills.
Right.
They're machines where you can just sit or stand, but you're going to push a couple of buttons and it's a no-brainer. You can't screw it up. And anybody who looks at you goes, oh, that lady knows how to work a treadmill. Versus walking into a weight room and trying to figure it out from there. It's a much bigger risk.
Yeah, and even if I used to be on the crew team in college, and I've been a swimmer in the past. And we weight trained. And even in those environments, unless it was all women, I always felt intimidated going into a gym and lifting, because there's a couple of things. Number one, there's different weight sets, and you're always having to move these huge weights off to put smaller weights on so you don't hurt your shoulders.
Right.
And so it's always intimidating unless you're really well founded and you grounded and you really know what you're doing and you don't care. And a lot of us have been trained to care about what we look like and what we're supposed to be doing. And so even asking somebody what to do, it's not really conducive in a gym to do that. So I completely agree with you. But
Right.
you figured out through your own training the solutions for empowerment. So you listed a bunch of those on my interview questionnaire for you. I would love to go over those to help people think about what would be a good start or a consistency to get things going. So let's talk about that.
Okay. One of the very easiest things that you can do is outsource the expertise. And that means hire a personal trainer. And this is a version of throw money at the problem, right? But it works in some situations. Throwing money at it's not a bad idea. So what you get with a personal trainer is, and I'm going to throw in some caveats here, but what you're going to get with a personal trainer is somebody who listens to your goals, understands you as a human, as like a functioning bodily human, and what your history has been like, and that's exercise history, health history, things like that, and then can build programs with you and actually watch you exercise. So you're getting the workout crafting part of it, but you're also getting the form expertise. And
Right.
that's a barrier that we didn't talk about, but a lot of women are afraid of screwing it up or hurting themselves. They don't want to go flinging around a bunch of weights and do
Right.
something incorrect and throw their back out or hurt a shoulder or rotator cuff or whatever. So hiring a personal trainer, that person's number one job really is to watch you and make sure that you are doing things safely and
Mhm.
maximizing the results while minimizing the chance for injury. So that's the big thing for hiring a personal trainer. I think that it is incredibly important to hire a trainer that you like, somebody that you get along with and that you can spend time with, and somebody who you feel like is listening to you. A lot of my clients have had trainers before me and had poor experiences with them. And in my experience, I've worked at regular gyms. I've known a lot of trainers, and some of them are tremendous and amazing. And some of them only know how to do the thing that worked for them or continues to work for them, or they only know how to help people accomplish one thing. So they can only really work well with one kind of client. The biggest complaint that I hear is like, I didn't feel like my trainer was listening to me. My trainer was trying to get me to look like a bodybuilder when that wasn't at all what I was after.
Right. So
Or my trainer
communication.
pushed me way too hard.
Right. The communication thing is huge with any sort of thing you do. And I completely agree with that whole dedicated form thing, because if you're, it can be like just a slight little adjustment, and then which makes all the difference.
It
So,
really can. A tilt your pelvis, a squeeze your
right.
buns. There's these little things, or like your palms up instead of thumbs up. There can be these little tweaks that a novice just wouldn't know. There's no reason for them to know, but that's the
Exactly.
trainer's job. It's also the trainer's job to check in over and over again throughout the course of exercise. How does this feel? Does that feel too heavy? Does that, we're watching for all of these cues and we're adjusting as necessary. So I recommend to people, if they're going to hire a trainer, do an interview first, sit down, spend 30 minutes talking with a person. Next level is asking them for references or asking for clients that are very similar to
Oh,
themselves.
good idea.
Yeah. Have you worked with a lady like me? Have you worked with somebody with these kinds of goals? How did that work out? Is that fun for you? What's fun for you as a personal trainer? So as the customer, the person with the checkbook, that's antiquated. The person with like the credit card, right? You've got the power seat here. You're paying somebody for their knowledge, but you're the one with the credit card. So it's completely fine to go, what kind of training is fun for you? What clients do you love to
Right.
work with? Because you're going to get a lot out of that. If you hear answers like, bodybuilders cut, shred, and your goal is to just move 3 days a week, that may not be the trainer for you. It's not a guarantee, but that's a piece of data that's worth considering. So I get really excited talking about this stuff. I got to remember to breathe. Number one would be hire a personal trainer. If you don't have money to throw at the problem, or you're feeling a little more empowered, or like you think you can get somewhere on your own, here's the answer. Start using weights. Get off those cardio machines and get into the weight room. You're probably going to need to Google some stuff or YouTube some stuff, but it is out there. If you type in beginning weight training program for women, you're going to get 4 billion results. Pick one and just do it. Like, print your papers and take them to the gym with you, or buy a handful of dumbbells and kettlebells to keep at home. Nobody's going to laugh at you for carrying papers at the gym. The really serious weightlifters will keep their journals and they're tracking their, how much did I lift? How many reps did I do? Blah, blah, blah. So you're not going to be the only one with papers. And despite the fact that we all feel looked at, everybody's much more interested in what they're doing than what anybody else is doing. So if you want to get brave and do it yourself, go to the internet, get some resources, and just start doing it. Women have to be doing strength training. Absolutely have to. You can do body weight instead of traditional weights. That's fine. Traditional weights might get you a bit further. It's going to be a little bit more intense, but even a person who's very deconditioned or very overweight can start simply weight training, and you'll see better bodily changes. But the more important thing is like what's happening inside to your bone density. So that's the number one reason for strength training, is that it protects our bones. And I tell my clients this all the time, or when I'm meeting with brand new potential clients, like, you can get cardio without me. You need me to keep you on a great strength training routine so that you don't have brittle bones and poor balance and trip on something when you're 60, 65, go to the hospital, break a hip, get pneumonia, and die. It's very dramatic, but it's a
Usually, yeah,
terrible
maybe
thing.
not for our 65-year-olds, but our 80-year-olds, definitely. That is a huge risk. And also, I just want to interject here, the muscle mass increase when you're doing weightlifting also acts as a sponge for blood sugars. So for all my diabetic patients, once we get things underway and they're ready to start exercising, I'm always suggesting and offering the concept of weight training, that you can't just do cardio, because cardio will use up your blood sugars right away, but the weights will help increase your bone density as well as your weight mass, your muscle mass. And that is really, really important for anybody going through any sort of blood sugar dysregulation issues. So there's several things. And also, as you said, the balance issue when you're doing standing poses or you're doing abdominal work and back work, to make sure that you're firing everything so that when you do trip, you can catch yourself and not fall. And that's really, really important, as you said, for those hip fractures, which will just destroy a quality of life for somebody who's been independent.
It's
So that's
true.
incredibly important.
And I know that that is, I make a big dramatic to do about it, but even if you don't go to the hospital and get pneumonia and die, which is my joke mostly, I'm always try to be clear with people about that. It's a funny scare tactic, but even if it doesn't go the worst it could do, if you break an ankle or break a leg, you are out of commission for months, and it takes a long time to come back from those things.
Right.
So we want to be investing in that bone density. We want to be investing in that like insulin receptivity, like you talked about. That blood sugar regulation is really critical for
Mhm.
people. And with women, the hormones, and you'll have way more expertise in this than I do, but our hormones really do start making a big impact on us in our 40s and later, and it can change every couple of years. So even if you've eaten, right, even if you've eaten the exact same way for your entire life, you can start to see this weight gain creeping. It might not be drastic, but it does start to creep up on you because of the way that your body is handling things differently. And I think that blood sugar regulation is a large
Right.
part of that.
Yeah. I've decided that my weight gain, I've decided they're like, and it happened for me really gradually, but it's happened. I've realized that they're like my new unwanted friends.
Just people hanging
They
around
just,
that you
they
don't
just come
need.
on, it's sort of like new unwanted friends, and then the friends I do want, like brain capability, words, they've all gone away. I just need to reverse that and switch that. And exercise can be a big part of that, because we know that when we exercise, brain chemistry changes and we get smarter. There's actually studies showing that children who exercise before taking math classes and math tests, their scores go up.
Oh,
So
that's
we
incredible.
we do know that exercise changes things that open up our pores in our brains, allows chemicals to improve the receptivity. You can see my brain's not working. I did exercise this morning. So exercise has a lot of benefits besides just bone density, muscle density. And as you said, the hormone changes, you might be able to increase some DHEA or testosterone potentially, but there's a little more to it than that. But definitely regulation of the stress hormone is important.
Yeah.
So you also listed about consistency
Hmm.
and the success. And right now, when we're recording this, this is still January, and my boyfriend is always frustrated because he regularly works out. He's like, "Oh, it's packed with resoluters today." January is a time when we all get back on the bandwagon. We remember our goals or reset our goals, and there's a whole bunch of people in the gym. And by the end of January, early February, that's all sort of gone down. But what you've talked about is making a plan and sticking with it.
Hmm. I think it's really critical to build in some accountability for yourself. And different women are going to accomplish this in different ways, and different strategies are going to work for us differently. But you may have to experiment until you find the thing that works the best for you. I am a calendar person. I live by my Google Calendar. So if I plug in my workouts, they get done because it's an appointment. And so that little time block doesn't get anything else booked on top of it because it's a time block. So that really works for me. And it's not carved in a stone tablet. So if somebody has to meet with me at that exact period of time, I scoot my exercise time block to a different empty part of the day. That's one idea for getting consistent. So the thing with consistency, and I think a lot of women suffer from this perfectionism complex. If I can't exercise 5 days a week for an hour, it doesn't count. I might as well not bother. And I am here to yell at you that every minute counts. Your body clocks those exercise minutes, whether it feels like a lot or it feels worth it or not. So let's say you set a goal for 3 times a week. At 7:30 a.m., I'm going to exercise before I go to work for 30 minutes. And then the day comes where you oversleep your alarm and now you only have 20 minutes. Get the exercise. Right. Those 20 minutes count. It's better than 0 minutes. And every day that you skip, that you don't do the thing you told yourself you were going to do, makes it so much harder to get back on schedule. So that's part one of consistency. Part two is that it's consistency over time. So we don't have to be perfect. We just have to be good enough for long enough. That will get us where we want to go. Right. And most of us, this ties into like fad diets and crash diets and crash workout plans and stuff like that. Working out consistently for 30-ish minutes, 3 times a week for 5 years, that you're not going to experience a miracle in a month or two, but in 5 years, and even 6 months or 1 year, you're going to be better off. You will be visibly and energetically, like you will feel the better offness if you do that stuff consistently. Not perfectly. In that 6 months or a year, you're gonna skip a few days, or you're gonna have 20-minute workouts instead of 30-minute workouts, but consistently over time really adds up.
And I had this conversation with a patient yesterday where I came up with this concept for them. They're diabetic, or they're getting towards diabetes. And I said, and she's a teacher, so she was. And I said, did you ever give out gold stars to your kids for getting their work done? She's like, yes. And I'm like, well, you're going to go get some stickers. And you're going to put a sticker on every day that you've done your homework, or you've done, whatever it is, and you get an extra gold star for every day you exercise. Yeah. So I think having those visuals, whatever works for somebody, they can then look back and see how well they did, and they also might work towards getting the next star. And it's something really silly. It's just like, I'm going to give myself a gold star today, rather than going and getting a mocha or whatever. That is not the reward you want to have. You want to have just sort of like an internal reward where you've done well without having to go buy something or drink or eat something. It's more like, hey, I did good. I feel good because I've exercised.
Right, totally. And people will get there over time. So in the beginning, we have to, trick ourselves sounds bad, but we're optimizing the way that our brains work and that our reward systems function. So stickers work. They really do. A quick anecdote. I bought a gym several years ago, a women's fitness center, and every 3 times a year we did a boot camp, and there was an attendance challenge during the boot camp. And we marked their days per week with stickers. When I came in, I was like, that's kind of silly. I'm going to get rid of the stickers. There was a mutiny. Just a room full of grown women were like, take our stickers and you will pay. So
I know.
It was a good lesson for me that visual. It was up in the gym. They saw it every day. They got to physically put in their sticker. That really motivated people.
Right.
And I think that there's different kinds of rewards. A lot of people have money to fling around, and shopping is really motivating. I had a client actually somewhat recently who was having a hard time doing the thing that he wanted to do. And so I said, can we come up with some kind of reward system? Like if you log 5 days of doing this habit, how could you reward yourself? And I put it in his hands. I gave him a few ideas. He landed on, he would buy a new computer game when he got to the 5th time of doing this thing. And then after that, it was the 10th time and then the 30th time. So it didn't take many rewards for him to start building a habit. And then he could push the rewards farther and farther out because the habit was becoming a little more ingrained. But he really, really liked having something to look forward to. And I read this somewhere, and I have a love-hate relationship with it, but I think I like it more than I hate it. Treats are for dogs. So it was this idea that we shouldn't talk about, oh, I deserve a treat. And that treat is the mocha or the cake or the chips or the whatever that you're trying to avoid. So if you got to stick with the language of treats, let's make it something that's non-food related, because we're not puppies.
Right.
So maybe the treat is the pedicure, or getting in the bathtub and turning off your family for a while, or, you know, but every part of this requires a little bit of time, a little bit of like getting quiet with ourselves and asking, what do I think is going to work? What can I look forward to? What will I truly appreciate? What will motivate me? And it just takes a little bit of thinking and a little bit of experimenting.
Wonderful. Well, Cari, thank you so much for your time and your expertise today. Was there anything else you wanted to add?
Oh, there's so much when I look back at the notes. I think, no, I don't think so. I want to encourage women to do something. You're completely capable of getting on Google and printing a plan and doing a plan. You're totally capable of interviewing a trainer and using that person to get you started. Get an accountability buddy who will check in with you a few times a week, or even work out with you a few times a week, just so that you start building the habit. It can take a while to learn to love it, but I promise that if you give it long enough, you will feel enough benefits that you'll want to stick with it. And that's really the key, is how do we change for life in an easy enough way that we can do it forever.
Right. And, you know, we might slow down as we get older, but it doesn't mean we don't need to stop moving. Every time we move, there's been studies shown that movement in and of itself is beneficial for a human being. My godparents' father, he was a silver or gold medal on the 1924 Olympic team for India for field hockey. And so he was athletic his whole life. He was playing tennis into these 80s. And so he was obviously an athlete from a young age. But one of the nice things we know about the human body for 99% of us is that movement is beneficial. So even if you're a klutz, even if you've never exercised, you know, starting with 10 minutes of walking a day, or doing some yoga, and there's plenty of resources out there, like you said, on the internet. And it's the concept is it's just to start. And even if it's like 1 to 2 minutes the day one, and then work up to 10 minutes, and then work up to 20 minutes, and finding the things that you enjoy doing, but also including that weight resistance to strain your bones, strain your muscles, and get out there and have some fun so that you can enjoy life and the things that you want to do and be that strong, empowered woman.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, thanks, Dr. Sara. This was so fun to talk about.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. So I'm going to be putting Cari's information that she wants to be putting out there. But as she said, there's lots of great trainers in your area, wherever you are. Make sure you interview them. Make sure you clearly state what your goals are. And remember that the weight and resistance training part is important, and that it is better to, as Billy Crystal says in reverse, it is better to feel good than it is to look as we're told we're supposed to look. So remember, it is how you're doing on the inside that's the really important part.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time today, Cari.
Thanks, Sara.